with us this morning. Mr. Pollock joins us by phone. You should still be able to call 479-1160 and talk to Bob if you have a question for him this morning. But we certainly do. Our visit this morning presented by Marcus and Mack, voted best law firm and best personal injury lawyer 3 years in a row in the Best of Indiana County contest. Visit them online at marcusandmack.com. You're not sitting poolside right now, are you?
No, no, I'm not. Unfortunately, that's a nice thought, though.
That would be a good place to be right now, right?
It sure would be.
If we were in a nice warm pool location, yeah, you betcha. You betcha. Mr. Pollock, we're supposed to have some nice weather next week. I see sunshine every day of the forecast. In fact, they've cleared it up even more, and they've literally made it sunny all the way through the forecast period, including today. Maybe a few clouds today, tomorrow, and then on Sunday, but then tons of sun the rest of the way as well. And temperatures getting up into the 60s all next week. And, well, that means folks will really be wanting to get outside and move about and do some things. We talked last week about pruning the grapevines and getting your shrubs. We were working on the shrubs last week. I wanted to ask you about people starting hot boxes down in the ground. The ground probably is going to loosen up a little bit for us this week. Is it time to dig that hole?
Sure. If you don't have that set up already, from previous years, now would be a good time to get that in place and ready to go for sure.
Yeah. All right. So when people do that, obviously there are some things that they should be thinking about. Digging the hole itself is if you've not done it yet, if you don't have a previously existing hot box in the ground, you want to dig a hole of about what size? And
size it according to how many plants you are planning to put in there. What are your needs? What are the types of plants that you want to start early to eventually have an early crop? Kind of lay that out. A lot of times, and we don't use those so much anymore as we did at one time. But people would take an old door that had glass panes in it. And they would use that as the top. So they would size it based on, what the size of that frame was or the door.
Now, how deep are they going?
You're just trying to get...
Did you fall away? Are you still there? Mr. Pollock, paging Mr. Pollock. Uh-oh. Are you
Can
still
you hear
there?
me?
Now I got you back. You back. So we were talking about the depth.
Yeah, so a lot of times you'll dig that. You might get down a foot or more, and also it will vary based on what your soils are like in the ground. Whether you're going to dig down, if you have good soil to work with, or you need to take some out and add to it. And then oftentimes you'll be trying to mix some compost or manure in there. Just as the decay process happens with that, that'll heat up. And so that provides a little bit of natural heat as the organisms in there start to break that down. So that's kind of like a bottom layer in there. You don't have that right up against where you're going to have sow plants or transplants in there. But that's a little bit deeper layer there to give you some heat, in addition to what you would naturally get, coming through the glass on the top.
Yeah.
And that can be, plastic on top also. And that allows you then, if you're just using plastic, then, you can size that differently because it's easy to cut a piece of plastic and put a single or a double layer on top to give you that greenhouse effect.
Yeah.
So really, we're just trying to create an area to grow plants outside that is protected from the colder nights and allow that to have some greenhouse effect during the day to warm up, which will germinate seeds or grow transplants on. You may have started those plants already inside, and now you're going to transition them out there.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that people like to do, and you could actually plant your plants in the ground that you've just dug, but people will also put down a little basic floor, just a few boards down there, and put trade plants or plants in pots down there too. Correct?
Yes, you can. You could also do that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then you're just basically you're wondering, well, how long before I get these out of here? How tall are they going to get?
That's right. Because that may just be a transition place. You might, with lettuces and things like that, you may grow your whole crop in there. And it also protects from any early season pests also.
Yeah.
But you're right, you could plant pots in there also to give you some additional growing space. Or, of course, then with the pots, as the plants grow and the weather gets better, because it can get too hot in there too. Of course, we can adjust the lid to compensate for that during the daytime, especially on sunny days. You probably have to crack that open otherwise it'll get too hot in there.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there the danger of cooking that plant if you're, especially, I know people, when they replace their windows, they hold on to the old windows for some reason. And sometimes they use that as the topping on their hot box. But then the sun gets a whole lot hotter than they're thinking, especially when it's shining through a window like that, and you could cook it.
Yes, and it's a smaller space. It can heat up in a hurry, and you can lose plants pretty quickly. And if you do have one of those, be thinking about water, because you'll have to water things. So it needs to be convenient. And a way to do that also. Yeah. And that's why, and you can make adjustments so that on that lid, you can kind of crack it open, and then you've got a way on the side that you can adjust that opening. On warmer days, you put it up, open it more, and colder days, you can leave it completely down or just cracked an inch or two. But that can, anytime we grow things indoors like that, it can really, you have to watch it because it can, in the matter of an hour, it can get too hot and things can wilt down or get burnt very easily. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, the mole population could break through there as well and think that they're in a giant gymnasium, and then you've got a whole different dynamic to deal with then. Yes, very true. All right. All right. We're talking with and of course thinking about how you build that structure. So burying the sides of the structure deeper down into the ground can help deter rodents, and then screening on the top can also be a way to keep things out. Yeah. All right. The garden patch itself, pretty soon we're going to be thinking about going out there and taking a look at that. Some people leave plastic over their gardens all winter long just to keep it neat. But then when that plastic comes off, they want to get to work on the dirt there. A lot of folks, I know they automatically say, I'm putting down lime, but you're a big advocate of getting your soil tested to find out if it actually needs lime. But that becomes an annual thing for them. But in terms of fertilizing that garden after last year's growing season, if we just let it sit there over the winter, is it a good idea to throw some manure on it right now, just let it work down in? Yes, if you have manure to put on there, yes, the sooner the better. And then, and also if you do have it covered, that soil underneath, especially a black cover, whether it be plastic in some shape or another, that will heat up quicker, so the soil under there can dry out faster. So if you remove that, or even if you don't, oftentimes you can plant sooner, or at least you can work the ground sooner just because of the natural effects of the sun warming up the soil underneath there, and that can allow you to be active there and work the soil sooner than a piece of bare ground sitting next to it.
Yeah. We put the manure out on the garden. Is it necessary for us to work that stuff down into the soil, or is it going to happen naturally with the rain and with the way that it all breaks down?
It will move a little bit. It's better to incorporate it, to mix it into the existing soil. That will allow the nutrients that are in that manure to be better, more evenly distributed throughout the root zone where the roots of the plants will grow. And then it also allows a little better activity as far as it breaking down and making those nutrients available. We can also lose some of it if it just lays on the top. It tends to clump, and you may also have straw or sawdust in there too, depending on the source.
Mm-hmm.
And so, mixing that in is more effective than leaving it on top. And then when it's just laying on top, it can dry out too, and some of that can even blow away a little bit. When we get those March winds. Yeah,
that's a factor to consider too. It's not like the wind never blows around these parts.
That's for sure.
All right, so folks are beginning to think about getting outdoors. Next week's weather is going to be really, really good for that, and I know that they want to do things like thatching and aerating and all of those things. So we've got a lot of topics we can cover over these next few weeks as people finally get to think about nicer weather and getting the growing season going.
Yes, that's definitely, we're turning the corner now, and that time's coming quickly.
All right, Robert, thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Enjoy the little drink with the umbrella in it there, poolside.
Yeah.
Sort of makes me feel like you don't really have that in your hand. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah. You're welcome.
It's Indiana in the Morning, and it's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, WCCSradio.com.